Hello, everyone on my social media pages. I am on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook under Jared Routson. And I don't feel like talking so much, but I did want to get on for a minute or two, however long that takes, and complain. Africa and Haiti are some of the poorest places on earth. And my sympathy really goes out to the children born in these places. On Instagram, there's a lot of people who run orphanages or schools even, or just families who've lost one or two or both parents. And they ask for help. And I don't blame them for asking for help, and I don't mind that they're asking for help if they truly need it. But what I'm upset about is where artificial conditions have been placed on citizens so that they cannot help themselves. I sent money to a person in the Gambia. Not much, just like $100 a while ago. And when he went to go buy some rice, because he claimed he had lost both of his parents and was an orphan, he can't attend school because he can't pay for the school. There's no public education in the Gambia, or probably in Africa, that I know of. And I'm new at this. Well, in the Gambia, they outlawed gathering firewood. So for someone, and if you didn't finish your college education, you cannot, the equivalent of a college education, you cannot be allowed to work in any jobs in the Gambia that I know of. And when they outlawed a year or two ago being able to gather firewood and selling it, I don't know, I don't even think you can just pick up sticks from the ground without the risk of being sent to jail. And so this person I sent $100 to, he went to go buy a bag of rice and some vegetables. And he knew other children, who needed food too. And when someone found out that he had money, they took a knife and slit his earlobe a little bit. It's enough so it requires, and still to this day requires, stitches. And so it's my great disappointment in the Gambian government for allowing this situation to happen. And my evidence of this isn't just based on one person only. I know another person who also claims he lost both of his parents. And while he was still in school, he seems to be very good at math and wanted to go into a career in mathematics. And so I gave him enough money to go back to another semester of school. He had lost both of his parents in a fire up to his house, I guess. He wasn't in the house at the time for some reason. Excuse me. And, he'd been homeless. He'd been chased by dogs, wild, ravening dogs. He gathered firewood while it was legal to, and paid what he could for a little apartment that was very cheap that the landlord let him stay there. Until the landlord found out that I had given him money for college. And Everything is very expensive in the Gambia. Medicine is expensive. Books are expensive. School is expensive. Maybe not as expensive in the United States. School books and uniforms are expensive. Food is expensive. So his landlord sent him to jail because he couldn't understand why the landlord couldn't understand why he could afford to pay his rent, or he couldn't afford to pay his rent for a year after they made gathering firewood illegal, and yet he could pay for school. So he should have paid for his rent, but I bailed him out of jail. I gave money so that he didn't have to pay for so that his criminal record could be erased. They don't do that in this country, but they do in the Gambia. You don't get legal representation in the Gambia. You can't have a lawyer unless you can afford to pay for your own judge. And I'm sure it's very expensive. So I bailed him out, and then he went to school for a month or two until someone broke into the college or to the school, whatever, stole some important academic books from the library. The principal has a meltdown and forces all students to pay 800 or so American dollars. The Gambian dollars are different value. There's more Gambian dollars than there are American dollars. Every student had to pay like $850 to the school, or else they could not continue going to school. And in fact, he ended up sending those who did not pay to jail. So this principal likes to beat his students, physically abuse them. And it's okay in the Gambia, apparently. Well, they're an Islamic nation primarily, much more than they are Christian. And you have to look around to find Christian churches in the Gambia. They're not on every street corner. And so this friend of mine that I helped go to school ends up going to jail. This happened last year, back around April of 2020. So it's just recently. I haven't been able to afford money to bail him out, to pay. Fortunately, just the principal has to be paid, not the jail, to get him out of jail, apparently. But while he's in jail, he's developed malaria. We were able to treat that. Then he developed tuberculosis in the jail. Apparently, they make you work on a farm sometimes in these jails. So there's labor involved, and they don't feed you in these jails. They beat you in these jails every day. The police could come in and beat each inmate. So unfortunately, one or two people from this school who couldn't afford to pay their $800 to the principal, and my friend had paid a partial payment to the principal, but that wasn't good enough. Like $100 or $250. So people in this jail, my friend has a cell phone, and apparently, I believe they allow him to use his cell phone in jail. He has a friend who lost his father, who was murdered, who supplied him the phone. So his friend's father was murdered last year. His mother is sick now, seriously sick, needs to see a doctor. So many children there in the Gambia need to see a doctor. his friend can't go to school. His friend was able to pay for his school book fines that accrued because someone broke in and stole books. The jail does whatever the principal wants them to do. The police want, he wants the police to do, they do it. People started dropping dead in the jail. We believe the jailers are poisoning the inmates' food. This jail tried to bribe a doctor to lethal inject my friend so that he would die in jail. When the doctor refused, they found any excuse they could, such as he gave my friend some medicine to repel the mosquitoes that cause malaria. And he borrowed the medicine. It wasn't paid for. So they sent the doctor to jail. And they told my friend heard that if the doctor didn't pay for the $90 for the medicine he gave him, he would be put to death. And they only gave a month worth of time. And so they moved my friend and the doctor eventually to a new prison. Eventually the doctor was taken, and we don't know what happened to the doctor because they're not telling us. But apparently my friend has to pay now has to pay this mosquito oil fee of $90, or else he can't leave the jail either. So you see, they have no rights in the Gambia. They have no Bill of Rights. We're very fortunate in America for the freedoms we have. Because in these places, which aren't really third world countries, they're older than America. They have no rights. And I just wanted to get on here and say how frustrated I am. My friend is deathly ill, and yet they continue to beat him. He has tuberculosis. He complains every day to me that his body's paining him from head to toe. Did my friend make some unusual choices which changed the course of events for him? I think so. He should have paid his rent, not go to school. And then this never would have happened. But because it did happen, now we know the state of affairs. It was their old president who it was their legislature 2 years ago who says you can't gather firewood. And gathering firewood is dangerous too. There are wild animals and snakes. The train. My friend had a friend die while gathering firewood. Okay, so we are so fortunate in this country. And I hope the gospel of Jesus Christ reaches these nations in Africa. Many of them are Islamic or other religions which are non-Christian. It was the old president that allowed the law to be passed, that allows the police to beat inmates in jail. I don't know. This is an all-male prison. I think they divide women from men. And maybe they don't beat women. But I don't know. They may very well, for all I know, beat women in jail. But for sure they beat men in jail. Jail is a very dangerous place. They're not given much food or water. And like I say, they risk being poisoned if they eat it. My friend is in a very serious situation, and I just can't afford the $300 to pay for his tuberculosis medicine, the $90 to pay for his doctor, and the $90 to pay for his doctor fee, or his doctor medication that he gave him, let alone the $500 or $600 to pay his principal. I'm sharing this story just so that people will be so thankful for what they have in the America and in our allied nations, hopefully the free world. I warned my friend not to take the vaccine. I won't be taking the vaccine, or any more vaccines for that matter. Mostly. And most Christians who know the mind of Jesus are not going to take the vaccine. So if you're in jail like he is and they force you to take the vaccine, my advice would be pray to God that God will neutralize any ill effects of the vaccine, that no weapon, like the Bible says, formed against the Jews will prosper. Nothing that changes your DNA should prosper. Nothing that would keep Jesus from being able to save you will prosper, like a vaccine that's experimental. This RNA vaccine is experimental. Rush to the market, even if it has been used in animals for 10 years or whatever. The RFID microchip, I think, is the mark of the beast if the vaccine isn't. And I will not be taking the RFID microchip in pain of jail, homelessness, starvation, disease, torture, and I encourage others not to reject Jesus by taking anything like leading up to the mark of the beast. Although I do have a credit card which has an RFID microchip in it. And I know the barcodes on groceries and stores are supposed to equal that number of the beast. Supposedly, I don't know. But these things are leading up to the mark of the beast if they aren't already the mark of the beast. So I'm just warning people now. I'm running out of time to record this video. So I'm going to get off, sign off this video. But I hope political pressure will be brought to bear, because my friend has tried to call the U.S. Embassy, contact the U.S. Embassy in the Gambia. Excuse me, hiccups. There's nothing they will do to send him out of the country or to get him out of jail, which I guess isn't their job. He's desperate. And if anyone has any ideas of what can be done or political pressure that can be put on their government to change these unjust laws, which are leading to people's loss of rights and their starvation and much pain and suffering that doesn't need to be. I'm just asking my government to do something so that the Gambia will make it possible for people to survive. And that's all I'm asking. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.